Something huge just went down in the automotive world, and it's shaking the industry to its core. Mercedes-Benz, one of the biggest names in luxury cars, just dropped a bombshell that nobody saw coming. What they revealed has every automaker from Tesla to Toyota scrambling to figure out what's next. The car market is on the edge of chaos, and this could change everything about how we buy, drive, and even think about cars. So here's what happened. Mercedes has officially announced a radical shift in strategy, one that could rewrite the rules of the global car game. They're pulling the plug on parts of their EV lineup, scaling back future electric projects, and pivoting towards something completely unexpected. Just months ago, Mercedes promised a full electric future by 2030. Now, saying, not so fast. Instead of going all in on electric, they're doubling down on hybrids and next-gen combustion engines. That's right, after years of pushing electric dreams, Mercedes just admitted what a lot of people in the industry have been whispering for months. The EV revolution is hitting a serious wall. And it's not just them. The entire car market is feeling the pressure. EV sales are slowing, inventories are piling up, and manufacturers are quietly slashing production targets. Why? Because the math isn't adding up anymore. The costs are too high, the infrastructure isn't ready, and consumers are getting frustrated with expensive prices, limited range, and unreliable charging networks. Even die-hard EV supporters are starting to question whether we're rushing into a future that's not fully built yet. But here's where Mercedes' move turns everything upside down. By stepping back from the all-electric race, they're signaling something the rest of the industry has been too scared to admit. The EV gold rush might be over. Mercedes is saying what others won't, that the real future of mobility might be diverse, not electric only. Think advanced hybrids, synthetic fuels, smarter engines, and modular designs that adapt to markets instead of forcing one global solution. It's bold, it's risky, and it's sending shockwaves through boardrooms everywhere. Investors are panicking. Stock prices for EV startups are plunging. Suppliers who bet everything on battery production are suddenly in free fall. And meanwhile, legacy automakers that quietly kept their combustion R&D alive, like Toyota and BMW, are starting to look like the smartest players in the room. The entire auto industry is shifting from EV or nothing to whatever works best. And this change is happening fast. But here's the wild part. Mercedes didn't just backtrack. They hinted at something much bigger, something that could completely reshape how we view the car itself. They teased what insiders are already calling a modular mobility revolution. Instead of forcing customers into one-size-fits-all EVs, Mercedes is reportedly developing a new vehicle platform that can run on multiple power sources: electric, hybrid, or even hydrogen, depending on where it's sold. Imagine buying a Mercedes that could be configured for Europe's strict zero-emission laws, while the same model in the US or Asia could run on a hybrid system for longer range and lower costs. That's not just flexibility, it's survival strategy in a collapsing market. And make no mistake, the market is collapsing. Dealership lots across North America and Europe are overflowing with unsold EVs. Incentives and price cuts aren't moving the needle anymore. People want reliability, affordability, and practicality, and the current EV wave isn't delivering that for everyone. Mercedes saw the writing on the wall and decided not to go down with the ship. While other automakers are burning cash chasing battery breakthroughs, Mercedes is quietly rebuilding its empire around adaptability. Insiders are saying this decision didn't come overnight. Apparently, internal data from Mercedes showed a stunning drop in consumer interest for full electric models, especially in regions where charging networks are weak or energy prices are surging. They realized the dream of 100% electric by 2030 was becoming a financial nightmare. And instead of pretending everything was fine, they pivoted. That's gutsy, and it's shaking the entire automotive hierarchy. What's even more explosive is how this bombshell has forced other brands to react. Audi and Volkswagen are now rumored to be rethinking their own EV timelines. Ford's electric F-150 Lightning production is already being scaled back. Even Tesla, the once untouchable king of EVs, is showing cracks, demand softening, competition rising, margins shrinking. Mercedes' move might be the permission slip the rest of the industry needed to admit the truth. The EV rush went too far, too fast. But Mercedes isn't giving up on innovation. In fact, they're doubling down on technology that works now. Ultra-efficient engines, AI-driven energy management systems, and next-gen hybrid drivetrains that can outperform some EVs in real-world conditions. They're not chasing range numbers for headlines. They're building cars that actually fit people's lives. And that's what could make this decision a masterstroke. Because while everyone else is panicking over falling EV stock prices, Mercedes might be quietly setting themselves up for a massive comeback. They've seen this movie before. Remember when everyone thought diesel was the future? Mercedes adapted then, and they're doing it again now. Only this time, the stakes are even higher, because this isn't just about technology, it's about the entire identity of the car industry. And here's where things get really interesting. Behind closed doors, Mercedes executives are reportedly discussing partnerships that could rewrite the power balance of the entire market. Word is, Mercedes has been in secret talks with several energy giants and even a few tech companies to create a next-generation mobility ecosystem. This isn't just about building cars anymore, it's about owning the entire experience from energy production to data integration. Picture this. A Mercedes vehicle that connects directly to a smart grid, optimizes its charging schedule based on real-time energy prices, and even sells power back to the grid when demand spikes. That's not a car, that's a rolling energy asset. And if they pull it off, Mercedes could completely redefine what it means to be an automaker in the 21st century. These partnerships could be the key to breaking free from the battery bottleneck that's choking the EV industry right now. Battery supply chains are strained, raw material prices are volatile, and environmental backlash over lithium mining is growing louder by the day. Mercedes wants out of that chaos. Insiders say they're investing heavily in solid-state research, but they're also looking at synthetic fuels and hydrogen cells as transitional technologies. That's the kind of diversified strategy that could keep them afloat while other automakers sink under the weight of single technology dependency. Meanwhile, the reaction from competitors has been a mix of panic and denial. Tesla loyalists are calling Mercedes short-sighted. EV startups are accusing them of betraying the green transition. But behind the scenes, those same companies are quietly scaling back their own EV targets. No one wants to admit it publicly, but Mercedes may have just said what everyone else was thinking. The world isn't ready for a full electric takeover. Infrastructure, affordability, and consumer trust just aren't there yet. And the ripple effect is already visible. Governments that once pushed hard for 2030 EV mandates are suddenly reconsidering. Some European nations are easing deadlines, and even US regulators are facing pressure to soften upcoming emissions targets. Mercedes' announcement gave them political cover to slow down without admitting failure. The narrative is shifting from EVs or bust to balanced transition, and that's a message investors love to hear. But here's the kicker. Mercedes isn't just reacting to the market, they're engineering it. Their upcoming platforms are rumored to feature modular architecture so advanced that a single chassis could support a plug-in hybrid, a full EV, or even a hydrogen variant, depending on market demand. That means Mercedes could switch production strategies in real time as global conditions change. It's flexibility at a level the car industry has never seen before. And if that sounds like a small detail, think again. This is the same kind of disruptive flexibility that allowed companies like Apple to dominate tech, control the hardware, the software, and the ecosystem. Mercedes is taking that playbook and applying it to transportation. They don't just want to sell you a car. They want to sell you an entire lifestyle, energy, data, luxury, and mobility, all seamlessly connected under one brand. But here's where it gets even crazier. Some insiders claim Mercedes has a secret weapon in development, something they believe could completely leapfrog both EVs and hybrids. A new kind of propulsion system that could render current battery technology obsolete. According to multiple leaks from Stuttgart, Mercedes' R&D division, codenamed Project Phoenix, is working on a next-gen propulsion system that blends elements of hydrogen fuel cells with ultralight battery packs and advanced energy recovery tech. It's not pure hydrogen, not a hybrid, and not a traditional EV. It's something entirely new. Engineers close to the project claim it can deliver the instant torque of an electric motor, the range of a gasoline engine, and refueling times measured in minutes, not hours. If true, this would completely upend everything we know about clean mobility. And here's the shocking part. This isn't some distant concept car dream. Prototypes reportedly already exist, quietly being tested in Europe under disguised E-Class and EQE bodies. Mercedes is keeping it under wraps, but whispers from suppliers suggest the system could be ready for small-scale production within the next few years. That's not decades away, that's now. And if they launch first, it could catapult Mercedes back to the top of the innovation race overnight. Meanwhile, rival automakers are scrambling to catch up. BMW's Neue Klasse program is strong but still rooted in battery EV tech. Toyota's solid-state breakthroughs are promising, but delayed. Tesla? They're focused on scaling existing batteries and cutting costs, not reinventing propulsion. If Mercedes' hybrid hydrogen-electric platform proves real, it could leave everyone else flat-footed. This could be the moment the EV narrative flips completely when electric stops being the end goal and becomes just one of many options in a much bigger, smarter mobility ecosystem. But this is about more than just technology, it's about control. Think about it. If Mercedes creates a propulsion system that isn't dependent on lithium or cobalt, they instantly sidestep the global supply chain mess that's crippling the industry. No more relying on Chinese battery production, no more geopolitical choke points. Mercedes could own the means of energy independence for their entire fleet. That's not just innovation, that's power. And the markets know it. Since rumors of this new propulsion system started leaking, investors have been watching Mercedes stock like hawks. Some analysts are calling this the biggest strategic pivot since the dawn of the internal combustion engine. Others are skeptical, warning that it could be another overhyped gamble. But everyone agrees on one thing. Mercedes has flipped the table, and now the entire automotive world is being forced to react. Still, beneath all the excitement and speculation, there's a darker side to this story, because if Mercedes is right, and the EV bubble really is bursting, it's not just car makers who'll feel the shockwaves. It's the entire global economy. Think about who's been riding the EV wave for the past decade. Lithium miners, battery suppliers, charging companies, and renewable energy funds. If Mercedes' pivot triggers a broad retreat from pure EV strategies, those industries could implode overnight. Billions of dollars in investments, gone. Factories built specifically for battery packs, obsolete. Governments that poured taxpayer money into EV subsidies and infrastructure, suddenly on the hook for a technology the market no longer believes in. And here's where things get brutal. Major battery producers in Asia and North America are already quietly cutting forecasts for next year. Suppliers that locked into long-term contracts with automakers based on projected EV growth are now facing massive losses. Entire workforces are being restructured before the public even realizes what's happening. This isn't just a corporate pivot. It's the early tremor of an economic quake that could reshape the entire manufacturing landscape. But Mercedes seems to have timed this perfectly. While everyone else was doubling down on the EV hype, they kept their combustion and hybrid R&D quietly running in the background. That means while competitors are stuck with battery-heavy factories and one-track strategies, Mercedes can pivot instantly. They can meet the new market reality head-on, with technology that's ready to roll. It's ruthless, calculated, and kind of brilliant. And get this, insiders say this move isn't just about technology or money, it's also about philosophy, Mercedes believes people don't just buy cars, they buy freedom. And the current EV model, with its charging limitations, subscription-based features, and software lock-ins, is starting to feel like the opposite of that. Mercedes wants to bring back that sense of independence, the ability to go anywhere, anytime, without worrying about infrastructure or range anxiety. That's the emotional hook they're betting on, and it's powerful. Meanwhile, the backlash from the EV establishment is getting louder. Environmental groups are furious, accusing Mercedes of betraying the planet for profit. Politicians who built their careers on zero emissions pledges are suddenly walking on eggshells. But behind closed doors, even some policymakers admit Mercedes might be right. The reality is that EV infrastructure can't keep up with the promises, and ordinary consumers are starting to notice. If the people stop believing in the EV dream, the political narrative collapses, and Mercedes just might have pulled the trigger on that collapse. But what if this was their plan all along? What if Mercedes knew years ago that the EV push would hit a wall, and patiently waited for the perfect moment to strike? Some analysts believe they've been playing the long game, quietly gathering data, watching the market implode under its own pressure, and then stepping in as the voice of reason. And now, with one calculated announcement, they've positioned themselves as the saviors of a disillusioned car market. There's also a geopolitical angle here that's impossible to ignore. By loosening dependence on batteries and rare earth imports, Mercedes' strategy could weaken China's chokehold on the global auto supply chain. Western nations are desperate to reduce their reliance on Chinese battery tech, and Mercedes may have just handed them the perfect excuse to pivot away from that dependency without losing face. It's not just a corporate move anymore, it's a geopolitical strategy disguised as a product roadmap. Meanwhile, inside Mercedes HQ, insiders describe an atmosphere of controlled chaos. Teams working around the clock, engineers finalizing hybrid prototypes, and software developers racing to finish the new AI mobility brain. The company isn't just trying to survive this transition, it's trying to own it. They know the next few years will determine who defines the car of the future, and they're moving like a company that intends to win. And make no mistake, the stakes are colossal. Entire economies are built on the auto industry. Millions of jobs depend on it. When a giant like Mercedes changes course, it doesn't just make waves, it triggers a global chain reaction. Suppliers retool. Governments rewrite policy. Competitors panic. Investors shift billions overnight. This isn't a car story anymore, it's a civilization story. How we move, what we drive, how we power it. These are the building blocks of modern life. But here's what makes this moment truly wild. Mercedes didn't just drop a bombshell, they started a movement. Already, whispers from inside BMW, Toyota, and Stellantis suggest similar rethinks are underway. They're not announcing it publicly yet, but the message behind the scenes is clear. The EV era isn't dead, but it's no longer destiny. The new mantra? Flexibility is the future. And as this new philosophy spreads, the car industry as we know it is being torn apart and rebuilt in real time. On one side, you have the die-hard EV purists, tech-driven companies like Tesla, Rivian, and Lucid, still chasing the dream of a fully electric utopia. On the other, you have the realists, Mercedes, Toyota, BMW, who believe the world needs multiple solutions to survive the transition. The battle lines are drawn, and over the next decade, we'll find out who was right. But don't think this is just about engines or energy. The next war in the car world will be fought on software. Mercedes' new operating system, rumored to be codenamed MB.OS, isn't just designed to control vehicles, it's designed to connect them. It could form a network of cars that talk to each other, learn from each other, and adapt to each driver's habits. This would give Mercedes an edge that no competitor could easily copy, because the more cars they sell, the smarter their entire fleet becomes. Data is the new oil, and Mercedes just opened a brand new oil field. Still, there's a dark undercurrent here. As cars get smarter, they also get more dependent on data, on networks, on updates. The same system that learns your driving habits could also track them. The same AI that predicts your route could also sell that data to advertisers or governments. In the wrong hands, this technology could turn cars from symbols of freedom into instruments of surveillance. Mercedes insists privacy will remain sacred, but as history shows, once the data floodgates open, they never really close. So, what does all of this mean for you, the driver, the consumer, the person who just wants a reliable car that won't break the bank? It means the next few years will be unlike anything the car world has ever seen. Prices will fluctuate, technologies will clash, and entire models will vanish as companies race to adapt. We're entering an era where the definition of a car itself is changing. Less about horsepower, more about intelligence, less about fuel, more about choice. And as chaos sweeps through the industry, one truth is becoming crystal clear. Mercedes didn't make this move out of desperation, they made it out of foresight. While others chased hype, they studied the cracks forming in the foundation. Now, they're building the next layer on top of it. The rest of the industry will either evolve or collapse. The meltdown is real. The market is changing faster than anyone predicted. But from the ashes of the EV rush, a new kind of automotive world is emerging. And at its center, with one hand on the wheel and the other on the algorithm, stands Mercedes-Benz. Because when everyone else lost control, they remembered the first rule of driving. Sometimes, to stay ahead, you have to take the turn before anyone else sees it coming.